To turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Purdue.
Hey, come on in again today. Hey, do you look at my snowy background? Hey, Nash Vegas, Tennessee. We had 8 inches yesterday, and we're freaking out. We don't normally get anything but half an inch to an inch, and boy, staying home by the fireplace, staying warm. Hey, today on our topic today, we talk about overcoming our adversities and what to do. We get tips and tricks from our guests to help us get through it quicker than we would normally, so we know that there's a better life to be able to live outside of our difficulties or challenges and adversities. Today, our guest, she's going to be talking about, she calls it the PBT, Post Betrayal Transformation, where she did a study on betrayal. All right. And so that would come across from family members, partners, spouse, friendship, co-workers, and the one I think is the biggest of all, sabotage, where we beat ourselves up and go from there. So welcome to the show, Dr. Debi Silber.
Thank you so much.
Silber, I knew I'd goof it up.
That's all right. Great to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
No, thank you for sharing your valuable time. You know, time is valuable, and I appreciate you sharing your valuable time to help me and other people that's coming in to have a better life and to move on in life. So I appreciate it. Now, let's jump on in. I don't like this hesitation and stuff. Let's talk about the Betrayal Study.
Yeah. Well, you don't study something like betrayal unless you have to. It's actually my 30th year in business, and as life would change, well, so would business. And after 2 very painful betrayals, I looked at the 2 experiences thinking, okay, what's similar to these 2? Of course, me, what else? Well, I realized that, boundaries were always getting crossed. I never took my needs seriously. And I said, that's it. So here I was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, a thriving business. And I'm like, we're going back for a PhD. And it was in transpersonal psychology, the psychology of transformation, because I was changing so much. I didn't quite understand it. My husband was too. I wasn't ready to look at that. He was one of the betrayers. And then, so it was time to do a study.
I knew it had to be a man.
Yeah. Well, first with my family.
Us men, we goof it up more than everybody else. And we got to ask for a lot of forgiveness.
Yeah. And it was my family. It was the first one. And then it was my husband, the second. So got him out of the house. And I was like, all right, here we go. So I enrolled in this PhD program, and I was just interested in healing. That was really it. And then it was time to do a study. So I studied betrayal. What holds us back? What helps us heal? And what happens to us physically, mentally, and emotionally when the people closest to us lie, cheat, and deceive? And that study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changed my health, my work, my business, my life.
There you go. Awesome. So if I was going to say diving into a PhD, which I have a doctoral degree as well, and it can be consuming and can be a betrayal in itself, depending on how things work out for you. But yeah, to definitely learn your groundbreaking, I'm interested in hearing from this, and audience, I'm sure, is fired up to learn from you, and so they can move on. Here we go.
Yeah. Okay. So the first discovery, originally I was studying betrayal and post-traumatic growth. And for those who aren't familiar, post-traumatic growth is, if you can imagine an upside of trauma, how whatever that experience is, death of a loved one, disease, natural disaster, how it leaves you with a new insight, awareness, perspective that you didn't have. Maybe you lose someone you love, you realize life is short, that kind of thing. But I had been through death of a loved one, and I'd been through disease. And I was like, no, betrayal feels very different. But I didn't want to assume. So I asked all my study participants, and I said, if you've been through other traumas besides betrayal, does it feel different for you? Unanimously, they said it feels so different. And here's why. Because it feels so intentional, we take it so personally. So the entire self is shattered and has to be rebuilt. Rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust, they're all trashed and they have to be rebuilt. So it didn't quite qualify as post-traumatic growth. It was like, yes, you rebuild your life, but you also have to rebuild the self. So I coined a new term, post-betrayal transformation. That's the complete and total rebuild of your life and yourself after an experience with betrayal. That was the first discovery.
I would have thought about the intentionally. I mean, I guess I just would have assumed lumping it all together, but seeing it separate than death of someone, which you have no control of, basically. Okay.
Right.
Wow. That's I can see that when you say that. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, because you grieve, you're sad, you're mourning the loss. Life will never be the same, but you don't, lose trust in everybody and everything. You
Yeah,
don't
because it's a natural thing. It's
exactly.
natural that we're all going to live and die, and yeah, but the intentionally part is intentionally. It's meant to do something to deceive or hurt you and lose that trust and everything else. Sorry. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that's okay. So the second discovery, what we learned was there's a collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal. It's known as post-betrayal syndrome. So we've had 50,000 people take our post-betrayal syndrome quiz on our site to see to what extent they're struggling. A few things about that. The first thing is we've all been taught time heals all wounds. I have the proof when it comes to betrayal. That's simply not true.
Yeah, I
Because
don't believe in that either.
yeah, there's a question on the quiz that says, is there anything else you'd like to share? And people write things like, my betrayal happened 35 years ago and I'm still unwilling to trust. My betrayal happened 15 years ago. Feels like it happened yesterday. So we know time does not heal betrayal. That was one thing. And every few months I pull the stats from the quiz just to see where people land. We've had men, women, just about every country's represented, every age group. And I have them if you want me to share some of the stats.
It's your platform. I'm following your lead.
All right, sure. Because this way you see really how these
Well, I
symptoms.
know it. I know that when you give these stats, I know it's not just me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so out of figure 50,000 people, 50,000 people, 78% constantly revisit their experience. 82%, 81% feel a loss of personal power. 80% are hypervigilant. That's exhausting. 94% deal with painful triggers. These are the most common physical symptoms. 71% have low energy. 68% have sleep issues. 63% have extreme fatigue. 47% have weight changes. So in the beginning, maybe you can't hold food down. Later on, you're using food for comfort. 45% have digestive issues. And that can be anything from Crohn's, IBS, diverticulitis, constipation, diarrhea, doesn't matter. The most common mental symptoms. 78% are overwhelmed. 70% are walking around in a state of disbelief. 68% are unable to focus. 64% are in shock. 62% are unable to concentrate. So imagine you can't concentrate. You have a gut issue. You're exhausted. You're supposed to work. You're supposed to raise your kids. That's not even the emotional issues. Emotionally, 88% experience extreme sadness. 83% are very angry. 82% feel hurt. 80% have anxiety. 79% are stressed. So just a few more. Here's why I wrote the book Trust Again. 84% have an inability to trust. 67% prevent themselves from forming deep relationships because they're afraid of being hurt again. 80% find it hard to move forward. 90% want to move forward, but don't know how.
And the book here, Trust Again, is up on the screen for ones that are coming in later to see, so you get an idea what it looks like. And ones on the podcast listening, again, it's called Trust Again. All right, yeah, I noticed there's a lot of high numbers in 80%, and especially in the emotional. And I can see that when you feel like you've been burnt, you have a hard time giving it up.
Exactly. And those emotions create disease. So what happens is that's why there's this, that's why it's post-betrayal syndrome. It's this physical, mental, emotional collection of symptoms. Now, the good news is you can heal from all of it. And we have the proof and the research and the platform and the roadmap to do just that. Want me to talk about the third discovery?
Well, and I was going to say physically, you can recover physically. You can recover the mental part, but when you get so emotionally involved into something, then that's what's triggering these other things to continue on.
But you can heal from all of the emotional.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, all of that too. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Number 3.
Sure. So for me personally, this was the most exciting. And what we learned was while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many people do, most people do, if we're going to fully heal, and by fully heal, I mean symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome to that whole healed, rebuilt place of post-betrayal transformation, we're going to move through 5 now proven predictable stages. And what's even more exciting about that is we know what happens physically, mentally, emotionally at every one of those stages. And we know what we need to do to move from one stage to the next. So healing is entirely predictable. Happy to go through the 5 stages if that serves.
I'm all good. Yeah, I'm good to go through all this because I want to learn as well, and so get this going. But yeah, some people when they try to discount, people don't understand what you're going through. They try to discount. You just get over it, move on. Yeah, if you don't understand what's going on, then you just can't say that
Yeah.
from there.
Not
So,
when it comes to betrayal. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
we found the wrong type of support does more harm than good.
Oh, yeah, that's in most anything. If you take the wrong route, you need to
Mhm.
hurry up and figure it out and get out of there.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay there just because you're paying for it. So,
Yeah.
all right, yes, go ahead. Let's come up with these 5 things you're talking about here now.
Yeah. So the five stages totally mapped out in Trust Again. It's what all of our coaches are certified in. It's what we do within the PBT Institute. I'm going to give you a distilled version right here. So stage 1 is like before it happens. And if you can imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. What I saw with everybody was this real heavy lean on the physical and the mental thinking and doing, and not really prioritizing or neglecting the emotional and the spiritual feeling and being. So think about a table with only 2 legs, easy for that table to topple over. That's us. Stage 2, by far the scariest of all of the stages. And this is shock, trauma, D-Day, Discovery Day. And it's the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. So here's where you've gotten that news. You've just made that discovery. And what happens is you ignite the stress response. So you are headed for every single stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. Your mind's in a complete and total state of chaos and overwhelm. You cannot understand and wrap your mind around the information you just learned. Makes no sense. And
Now,
there's a break.
is the news you're just receiving it? Is this surprisingly all of a sudden it comes, or you've had some intuition about it,
You
wondering? Is it
you
the
could have.
same thing? Yeah, is it the same thing you finally find out, whether
Yeah.
it's surprised or you had an idea?
Shock. Yeah, it's that shock. It's the realization, the confirmation. Yeah.
Yeah, confirmation that it's actually is. Okay.
Yeah. And it's a breakdown of the worldview. Your worldview is your mental model. It's the rules that prevent chaos, that govern you. Don't go there. Trust this person. That person's safe. Like this is how life works. And in one earth-shattering moment or a series of moments, everything you've known to be real and true is no longer. The bottom's bottomed out on you, and a new bottom hasn't been formed yet. So it's terrifying, scariest of all the stages. But if the bottom were to bottom out, what would you do? You'd grab hold of anything you could to stay safe and stay alive. And that's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. It's the most practical out of all of the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this experience? Where do I go? Who can I trust? How do I feed my kids? Right? Here's the trap though. Stage 3 is by far the one that people land and stay in. And if you're not careful, you stay there for life. And here's why. I mean, so much so that I realized people were stuck in stage 3. So from hardened to healed is only for stage 3, for those stuck in stage 3. What happens is once you've figured out how to survive, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma of where you just came from, you think it's good. And because you don't know there's anywhere else to go, you don't know there's a stage 4 or a stage 5. Transformation doesn't even begin until stage 4. But because you don't know there's anywhere else to go, you start planting roots here. You're not supposed to, but you don't know that. And 4 things happen. The first thing is you start getting all these small self benefits. You get your story. You get to be right. You get a target for your anger. You get someone to blame. You get sympathy from everybody you tell your story to, right? You don't have to learn to trust again. Should I trust you? Can I trust you? I forget it. I'm not trusting anybody. So you plant deeper roots. You're not supposed to. You don't know that. Now, because you're here longer than you should be, the mind starts doing things like, well, maybe you're not all that great. Maybe you deserved it. Maybe this, maybe that. So you plant deeper roots. Now, because these are the thoughts you're thinking, like energy attracts like energy. That's the energy you're putting out there. So now you have situations and circumstances and people coming towards you to confirm, yep, that's where you belong. It gets worse, but I'll get you out of here. The misery loves company crowd, they come here around now too. Because you are so unhappy here, but you don't know there's anywhere else to go. You don't know about stage 4 or stage 5. Right here is where you resign yourself. You're like, this stinks, but I guess this is as good as it's going to be. So I better figure out a way to make this work. So here's where you start.
Would it also be their comfort zone?
Yeah.
They've learned. I mean, because a lot of us, we don't want to rock the boat and fall out and get out of what we built this comfort zone. Yeah. Okay, that's what I was wondering. Yeah, okay.
Exactly that, and we have decided that this is comfortable for us, and to make it even more comfortable in a way that keeps us stuck like cement. Now we start using food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, keeping busy, whatever, to numb, avoid, and distract ourselves from this painful place. So think about it. You do it for a day, a week, a month. Now it's a habit, a year, 10 years, 20 years, and I can see someone 20 years out and say, that drinking you're doing, that emotional eating you're doing, that numbing in front of the TV, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? And they would look at me like I'm crazy. And they would say, that happened 20 years ago. All they did was put themselves in stage 3 and stay there. That makes sense?
No, it makes sense they would do that. It wouldn't make sense for me to hang in there,
Yeah.
But yeah, for the ones that felt like they've been beat down so much and so bad that here I'm comfortable. This way my life's supposed to be. So I'm not doing anything to try to fight it. Yeah, I can understand that. Not that
Yeah.
I would do that, but I can understand someone doing that though.
That's exactly why they stay in stage 3. And the longer you stay there, the harder it is to leave.
Yeah, because they don't know what's on the other side, and because they don't know, they don't want to venture out.
That's it. And then now they have a new circle of people and all this confirmation, and that's where they stay. I mean, that's why From Hard to Healed is just for that group. Anyway, if you are willingness is a big word here. If you're willing to let go of all those small self benefits, grieve, mourn the loss, bunch of things you need to do, you move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo my experience, but I control what I do with it. Just when you make that decision, you start turning down the stress response. You're not healing just yet, but you just stopped the massive damage you were causing in stage 2 and stage 3. And I use this example of, if you've ever moved to a new house, office, condo, apartment, whatever, you don't have all your stuff there. It's not quite cozy yet, but it's going to be okay. When you're in that sort of mental space, you're turning down the stress response. And what's also interesting is, if you were to move, you don't take everything with you. You don't take the things that don't represent who you want to be when you're in that new space. And what I found was, if your friends weren't there for you, you don't take them with you. Right here, you've outgrown them. You're undergoing a transformation. And if they don't rise, they don't come. So people say all the time, what the heck? I've had these friends 10, 20, 30 years. Is it me? Yes, it is. You're undergoing a transformation. And if they can't support you or be there for you in the way you need, you've decided right here, you've outgrown them.
Amen. And I tell people, say, you don't have to live them forever, but you don't have to hang around forever. You can always still be polite. Hello, how you doing? I hope things going great. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Yeah, but you don't have to be there.
That's it.
Not there, if they're not helping you build yourself up and not building themselves up along the way with you, you don't need them, because eventually you'll fall back to comfort.
That's it. I did 2 TEDx talks, and the first one, it's called Stop Sabotaging Yourself. It's about that very topic, how we keep sabotaging ourselves so we don't outgrow something or someone. Anyway, so when you're in stage 4, you're making it cozy, you're making it kind of okay, you're making it home. You move into the 5th most beautiful stage, and that's healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body starts to heal. Self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise. You didn't have the bandwidth for any of that earlier. Now you do. The mind starts healing. You're making new rules, new boundaries based on your experience, and you have a new worldview based on what you see so clearly now. And the four legs of the table, in the beginning, it was just all about the physical and the mental. By this point, we're solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
I think it's an important and good 5 stages from this. So Arizona Street Media, thank you for coming in. I hope you're catching something on this on betrayal transformation. So thank you for coming in. So it's amazing to me. Again, I think a lot of it is the self-sabotage. I mean, because everybody outside your world can go, no, you can't do this. You shouldn't do this. Why are you going to try this? You're going to fail at this. But again, you have the final say so. And so I think we self-sabotage it way too hard on ourselves, more than what we want to blame to other people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And you know, like I was saying in that first TEDx talk that I did, I use 3 clients as examples of how we do this, and it may serve if I share some of them.
Yes.
One was picture someone, she's at the top of her game in her field, you know, making a great salary, a beautiful office, well respected, all of this, and all of a sudden she sees me because her energy's down, you know. So we do a bunch of things to get her energy back up, and with the energy comes a lot of clarity. And all of a sudden she realizes, you know, I've been climbing the corporate ladder for 25 years in a field I chose just to please my parents. I did everything for this. I never got married. I never had a family, you know, but this is all I know. What do I do? Do I quit my job? What, you know, and so what does she do? She stops seeing me, dives back into work, sabotages her success, right? Another one, I remember Greg, he would meet up with his friends every week, you know, every Friday night or whatever, grab a beer, complain about the wives and the lives and all of this. And all of a sudden he realizes, you know, it's not really fun to complain anymore if I'm not doing something about it. So he starts diving into personal development. He is lit up like a kid in a candy store. And so now when he meets with his friends, he of course wants to share it. He wants to read these books with them. He wants to go to listen to these things and these events with them. And he starts talking about it and they start mocking him. So instead of going along with it, they're making fun of him. So what does he do? He puts the personal development stuff down. And now when he meets
eventually falls back in the trap.
That's it, because he's afraid to outgrow him. And that's what we do. You know, when we are on this journey and we are healing physically, mentally, and emotionally, when we are so committed to the people that are here, what we always do is keep sabotaging ourselves because we don't want to outgrow them.
We come back to their level.
Frustrating. So we're like, well, why can't they do this? Right? Well, they weren't ready, just like you weren't, you know, at one point.
Yeah.
And eventually what happens if they don't do the work and you continue, you get this, where they're like, ooh, what happened to you? And you're like, ooh, I'm not the least bit interested in you. So the whole idea is, and what we teach within the PBT Institute, our only job is to get that person, you know, to a better place physically, mentally, and emotionally, because then this can't help but show up because that's who you are.
Yeah, that don't think of it as running from your friends. If they still want to be your friends, they're going to come with you. If they want to stay where they're at because they're uncomfortable, doesn't mean you have to play the game with them.
That's
and
it.
So, the one thing with Greg, someone should teach him that when he was trying to get them to jump in and drink the Kool-Aid with him, all right, and they're not doing it. I don't know who said this. I would have to go back and research it. But essentially what they're saying is if you're the smartest person in the group, then you're in the wrong group.
Yeah.
You know, you need to go where there's people that are smarter, brighter, that can help you to build you up more.
Right. And it's really common when we've had some sort of shock and trauma and then we do the work to heal. You know, the people around us, they haven't changed. We're the ones who start changing. And if we don't have people in that sort of new group, like what you're talking about, we question ourselves. We don't want to leave our group because we don't want to be alone. And we will keep sabotaging ourselves until we decide not to.
Yeah. All right. And your third person?
One more. She's a busy working mom, so she would she over the last bunch of years gained a bunch of weight. She saw me to get the weight off, so we do a couple things to get the weight off, and all of a sudden, you know, because all she was doing was going to work, coming home, making dinner, cleaning up, going to work, you know, over and over and over. Wasn't eating well. So she thought it was just about the weight when she came to see me. I know it's way more than that. So we start doing some work. The weight starts coming off, and all of a sudden she realizes, wow, I settled for a job I never liked. I don't even know if I like my husband. What do I do now? Do I leave my job? Do I leave my husband? So instead of doing the work to figure all that out, she went back to the food, gained the weight back, sabotaged her success, so she wouldn't have to think about it. This is stuff we do all the time.
Yeah. It's amazing how complex we are on some things that could be simple. If
Mm-hmm.
we just, I'm a firm believer, we at the higher order, the more intelligent, we overcomplicate quite a bit things. For example, I was going to work one day, come around the curve, and a dog had just gotten hit by a car, I guess. I saw him dragging himself off the road, and his back hips, he was paralyzed. Okay. And people had pulled over trying to help the dog. And I was sitting there watching him. I was going, here's a dog that just wants to live, survive. And he's dragging his paralyzed back legs, back part, to get off the road so he won't get hit by another car. But
Mm-hmm.
what do? We get paralyzed. Me get paralyzed. I'm in a wheelchair. I don't know how much you know, but paralyzed playing football. And first thing I want to do is whine and cry about everything I lost, instead of worrying about surviving the next day and getting a better life. The best one possible was out there. And I'm not talking about being paralyzed physically. I mean, it could be, again, emotionally, from family life, again, from drug life, whatever. And we stay there and we
Mm-hmm.
whine and cry more than we do something about going and get help, dragging ourselves off that road, not to get beat up again. And
Exactly.
we're the most intelligent creatures out there. And we
Mm-hmm.
make things so complicated on the simple things sometimes.
Yeah. And what I like to point out to people is the same brilliant mind you have that could create those belief systems that keep you stuck could be the same, when you use your mind in a different way, that's what creates healing.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Just
Mm-hmm.
you need to be open-minded and
That's it.
willing to take the risk to get out of that so-called comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, well, Dr. Deb, this has been amazing.
Thank you so
I've
much.
learned a little bit, and I appreciate you coming on and helping the listeners and everything. Again, sharing your valuable time. Hey, go ahead and tell us your social media, your website, how people can find you, about
Yeah.
taking the quiz on your website.
Sure, sure. So the website is the PBT, as in Post Betrayal Transformation, thepbtinstitute.com. And we have the both quizzes, the Healed or Hardened quiz and the Post Betrayal Syndrome quiz. But they could just also go to healedorhardenedquiz.com and you'll find the quiz there.
And I'll put links down in the show notes to make it easier for people to find. And any other social media you want to hit them to come
My
find you
name,
on,
yep, Debi Silber.
just Google your name. All right. And sounds good. Now, Doc, you know that there's people hurting and struggling today. If you could leave us with a powerful message to help them get through today, that'd be a blessing.
Yeah, this is what I found to be true. Even if you have to say it 100 million times until you believe it, it's worth it. Even though it happened to you, it's not about you.
There you go. That's good. Yeah. Because it happened to you, it's not about you. So, all right. Yeah, that's powerful. I like that. So, all right, Tay, I appreciate you being here. And anyone else that's share this out, someone needs some way to get motivated, get powerful, and tell them to go find Doc. Go to their website and stuff like that, and take the quiz and get her books and go from there. Hey, I'm Dr. James Purdue, the Professor of Perseverance. Thank you for coming in on the Professor of Perseverance podcast. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.